Good afternoon, I'm Sean Yao, and this is One News Now. The Philippines is getting some attention among regional peers with over 100,000 COVID-19 cases reported. Greg Gregorio joins us live from Marikina to tell us the government's reaction to this. Greg, figures-wise, the Philippines is leading the coronavirus chart, at least in Southeast Asia. How are those in office, how's the admin taking this? A COVID-19 epicenter in the making, as everyone else is saying.
Sean, if you ask the health department, they'd say that labeling the Philippines as such would be quite unfair, considering the country's stride in COVID-19 testing. Although Health Chief Francisco Duque III agrees that all efforts must be done to sustain whatever progress the Philippines has accomplished.
That's unfair for them to say that.
This is Health Secretary Francisco Duque's reaction to reports tagging the Philippines as the new COVID-19 epicenter in Southeast Asia. An uncoveted title now accorded to the country after topping the rest of Southeast Asia in terms of COVID-19 cases, due in part to allegedly poor government response. On Thursday, the Philippines surpassed Indonesia and Singapore in terms of total cases. But according to Duque, data on each country's case per million population must also be considered. Should this be the measure, World Health Organization data would show that the Philippines ranks second to Singapore. Duque insisted that ramp-up testing plays a part in the country's ballooning infection count.
We increase our testing, we increase our contact tracing. So you really see that. Indonesia testing rate is 3 times less than the Philippines. Tingnan mo, we're testing more now than Indonesia.
Such is the case in Marikina, which according to Duque has bolstered its contact tracing. The city expects fewer daily cases by the end of the month as they get to trace 30 individuals per one positive patient. Add to that their daily testing capacity of as much as 800.
Dahil mataas yung ating ratio na yon, 1:30, ay mabilis nating nako-contain yung pagkalat ng virus.
The city is building an additional treatment and monitoring facility with 136 beds. Teodoro admits, though, that there's still transmission in communities.
Ang transmission nangyayari at the household level. Baka kailangan na rin magsuot ng face mask miski nasa loob tayo ng bahay natin.
The palace, for its part, stands by what they believe is the country's improved response to the crisis.
May mga nagsasabi na masama daw itong figura dahil tayo na nga raw po ang pinakamataas. Hindi naman po ganon. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito, alam na natin kung nasan yung kalaban nating COVID-19.
Sean, Secretary Duque said that even with close to 120,000 COVID-19 cases, our fatality rate remains low at 1.8% compared to Indonesia's 4.7%. Duque said it means that our case management for severe and critical cases have improved. Sean?
Right, Greg, but let's go beyond the numbers quickly. Did Secretary Duque express or tell you about some new strategy maybe that the government might be undertaking to contain the numbers or the increase in the numbers? Or was that all he said?
Sean, other measures that Secretary Duque mentioned earlier is the one hospital command system for the treatment of COVID-19 positives in the country, whether mild or symptomatic or severe or critical. Other than that, they are in close coordination with the local government units to closely monitor their localities in amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Sean?
All right, I guess we'll wait and see whether this new strategy of the OHCC does work out. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from Marikina, Greg Gregorio of News 5. And despite having the most number of infections in the region, Interior Secretary Ed Año insists that we are not losing the fight against the pandemic. Año insisted that the government is still on track in its COVID-19 response, saying the fight is not over until a vaccine has been developed. He also compared the country's situation with that of hotspots like the US and Brazil.
Sabi mo, we are actually performing poorly. Pero pag i-compare mo naman sa countries like Brazil, Amerika, Russia, India, parang matutuwa ka. Imagine naman for example, in the United States, ang namamatay 2,000 isang araw. Yun, total na natin yun, no?
Secretary Anyo expects the modified does not expect MECQ to be extended beyond August 18. He also reminds barangay officials in MECQ areas to strictly impose quarantine protocols or face the risk of being charged before the ombudsman. So far, there are more than 122,000 COVID-19 cases in the country, with an additional 3,300 infections. Active cases currently stand at 53,000. 24 individuals recently lost their battle to COVID-19, bringing the total death count to 2,100. On the other hand, 96 patients have survived the said disease, putting the total number of recoveries close to 67,000. Motorcycle ride-hailing firm Angkas will be providing free rides for medical frontliners starting tomorrow amid the suspension of public transportation under the modified ECQ. Romel Lopez has the story.
Despite still not being allowed to operate on the roads yet due to lack of franchise, motorcycle ride-hailing firm Angkas will be ferrying passengers over the next 2 weeks for free. The free ride covers medical frontliners in MECQ areas. That's set to start on Saturday.
Kasi itong ating mga health workers, probably sa umaga, okay pa yung biyahe nila, masigla pa. Pero after their shift, ito yung mga pagod na. So naka-standby sila doon para ihatid sila bahay.
Angkas assured riders that their salaries will be paid.
One of the measures na ginagawa po ng gobyerno at ng pribadong sektor na partnership.
Angkas also donated 1,000 units of motorcycle barriers to the Philippine National Police to be distributed to precincts for medical frontliners in the area. Interior Secretary Eduardo Anyo tested the barriers. He vouched for the barrier's safety and its potential in curbing the spread of COVID-19. He said that there are studies showing its positive results.
Kasi ang virus ay nagtatravel by airborne. Ang nangyayari ay 30% ng ating mga gumagamit ng motor. After a while, itinataas nila yung kanilang face shield. Siguro naiinitan. Kapag nagkaroon ng traffic o kaya nasa intersection, tinatanggal nila yung kanilang helmet o itinataas yung face shield. Instinct nila yan, hindi mo mapigilan sapagkat kung ang komportable na yung tao, talagang gagawin niya yung paraan para guminawa siya.
He also clapped back against the critics of the mandatory installment of plastic barriers.
Sino ba ang merong responsibilidad sa pagliligtas ng buhay? Ang ating health workers, ang ating frontliners, ang ating local and national government. Nasa kanila yan. Mangyari nga dyan, kasama sa mga mabibiktima o magkakaroon ng sakit, ang takbo niya dito pa rin sa ating national local government, sa mga law enforcers. No?
Anyo hopes that the MECQ will not be extended as there is a need to balance the public health with the country's economy. For 1PH, Romel Lopez, News 5.
1 in 2 adult Filipinos are worried about publishing materials that are critical of the present administration. Based on the latest SWS survey, 51% agree that it is dangerous to print or broadcast anything critical of the administration, even if it is truthful. Only 30% disagree with the statement, while 18% were undecided. The survey was conducted from July 3 to 6, just a few days before Congress rejected the broadcast franchise bid of media giant ABS-CBN. We're going to pause for a quick break, but we will be right back after that. Stay tuned. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. Almost 2 weeks before the supposed opening of classes, and teachers and students are saying that they are still not prepared for distance learning. Even the DepEd admits that additional funding is needed to cover online expenses. Ria Fernandez with the full story.
College student Micaela Pancha noticed some disadvantages of distance learning. She says she has classmates who failed to attend school since they resumed classes.
Dahil nga po sa slow internet connection at saka po sa kawalan din po ng gadgets at data. Ang iba po sa mga estudyante po namin ay nanghihiram lang din po ng equipment sa mga magulang nila at sa yung iba po sa kapitbahay pa po nila.
Teachers also continue to complain as not all of them have their own gadgets for online classes. And with modified enhanced community quarantine in effect in Metro Manila and nearby areas, many of them are stranded in provinces with poor internet signal. Some also scramble with their preparations, including the printing of modules. A number of them have also been infected with COVID-19. Based on the data of the Alliance of Concerned Teachers, 63 teachers from NCR, Region 7 and Region 10 already tested positive for the virus. The teachers themselves shoulder the testing fees.
Nakakatawa at nakakaasar, nakakagalit na kapag ang isang teacher ay nag-positive sa COVID-19 ay kahit man lang leave of absence ay hindi niya ibibigay sa teacher. Napakawalang puso.
Due to these problems, stakeholders feel face-to-face classes are also unlikely to push through in January.
Kaya nga ang panawagan ay ma-move sana itong pasukan na to. So yun naman yung sukatan. Positive naman na kasi lahat naman kahit naman tayo kami sa bayan, sa lahat ay gusto naman nating matuloy pero hindi sa soon.
The law may say August 24 dapat ang last day para magbukas, but we are in an entirely different situation right now. We are in the middle of a pandemic, the worst economic crisis in our history, at hindi po handa yung mga ahensya na magdi-deliver ng pag-aaral para sa ating mga kababayan. So panahon na para tignan ang bagay na ito at hindi na lang po iasa kung ano yung tinatakda ng batas. Pwede naman pong i-move it. The President has the power to do that.
The DepEd has yet to comment on their safety measures for teachers. As for the educators' expenses for internet load, DepEd spokesperson Ann Sevilla said they are in talks with the budget department for funding. But she said since June, each teacher has already been given a 3,500 cash allowance that covers supplies necessary in whatever modality of teaching. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, we are One News.
And the United States is reiterating its support for Southeast Asian nations with sovereign claims in the disputed South China Sea. In a phone call with Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo discussed Washington's latest policy declaration on the maritime disputes. That latest policy affirmed country's 2016 arbitral award, which invalidated China's 9-line claim. Pompeo described his conversation with Locsin as a good call. It's not clear, though, if President Duterte's directive to ban the country's participation in naval exercises was discussed. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.